Iowa State certainly had their moments against Arizona where they didn't look their best. But after watching the game back, I can't tell if this Iowa State team is going to win the Big 12 title or win the Big 12 title and then a college football playoff game. We're talking about why today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day, making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know. Thanks again for hitting subscribe down below. It's completely free. Helps us prove that it is, in fact, a Cyclone State. You guys are the best for doing that. All right, today we're talking about Iowa State versus Arizona. First off, rewatch. What did I think went well for Iowa State? What did I think they could have done better? We're going to look at that game as a whole in this first segment. Then we're going to break down the injuries. How does that impact this team long-term? What did Matt Campbell have to say about that as well in the second segment? And then finally, to round out today's episode, we're talking about the AP poll. Don't love that it's coming back. I don't, but we got to talk about it. And who knows? We might even talk about some other stuff in there. So before we dive into all of that and more, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Okay, so Iowa State demolished Arizona 39-14. I am thankful for the first time, maybe all season. I am not going to get a lot of comments that are saying, well, I don't know if I would use the term dominated. Obviously, against South Dakota, that was the only other time. I think Iowa State dominated the Arizona Wildcats. Made me feel very good because going into this game, I really thought Iowa State was significantly better, but a lot of the Arizona fans were like in my ear, and I'm like, okay, maybe is Arizona actually pretty good? Well, I don't know if Arizona is that good or not. I mean, really, the biggest win they had was over Kansas State, and they are a big question mark right now. But I do think Iowa State is a very good team, right? You didn't let Arizona really ever into this game. Matt Campbell said otherwise in his post-game presser, kind of said, well, we never really felt like we had the game wrapped up. That's why the starters were still out there. We'll talk more about that in the second segment. But to me, it never really felt like Arizona was in this game. Got their first touchdown right going into the last drive before halftime. And then Iowa State kind of blew the door open after the half. So it never really felt close. I think that that's an indicator of a better team. Iowa State, top to bottom, I think is better than Arizona. That's kind of the result you would expect. Iowa State didn't let it get too close for comfort. A weird play could decide the game. This is one of those where, when they say, you can't let the refs decide it, that's kind of what this was. Don't let it get close enough where the refs can have an impact on this game, which we aren't even talking about the refs. I just think this is a good example. And you walk away with the win, right? Iowa State was a better team, period. I wanted to throw that out there really quick because we are going to nitpick a few things from this game. We are going to pick a few things apart and say, well, they could have been better here. They could have been better here. All across the board, Iowa State played very well in this game, did enough to beat Arizona, and honestly dominate in this one. We'll talk more about that in the third segment in the AP poll. You're not going to want to go anywhere for that. As far as, let's start with the offense. Pros, cons. Immediate pro, Chase Sowell. We now have a legitimate wide receiver threat. Now, Brett Eskelson was kind of the guy a little bit. I even questioned about maybe Dom Overby. Chase Sowell seems to have come onto the scene. And Matt Campbell talked about, like, this guy is really good. Like, kind of used the first few games, has his fall camp because of the injury he had during, like, real fall camp. Now he's kind of, he's here. Like, get ready, Big 12, because Chase Sowell is a name you need to learn right now. That feels really good. I'm not going to lie to you. It does feel nice to not have to solely rely on the tight ends. Now, I hear you guys already. We have great tight ends. We can use great tight ends. But would you rather have 2 star-studded tight ends and then nobody else, or 2 star-studded tight ends and then 3 wide receiver options that are also very, talented, usable out there in the offense? They fit well. That's where Iowa State is at, I think, right now. We're growing into this wide receiver core, figuring out how they can best be used. Brett Eskelson, he didn't really have a huge night, had a 54-yard night, 45-yard long on the pass play from, like I said, those tight ends. from Benjamin Bramer. But aside from that, so 45, 54, he had nine yards on 2 catches. Chase Sowell was the guy in this one. It feels nice to have him as an option. And that's kind of what kind of this team is exciting. What about this team is exciting? What about this team is exciting is what I'm going to go with, because you never know who it's going to be. Any given night could be Sowell, could be Eskelson, could be Bramer, could be Burkle, could be Townsend. Even Townsend I thought was going to have a bigger night, just didn't really end up getting used in the same way that I thought he was going to, right? When that game started, I thought, oh, we might be looking at a Townsend game. I was wrong. It was a Sowell game. So that's a positive. Another positive, Rocco Becht, I thought played really well. Obviously, the interception we'll talk about in a second here, but did enough. An elite stat line in this one. And I do use the word elite. 9 carries for negative 10 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's awesome. That is epic. So obviously through the air, very serviceable, 14 and 20, 243 yards and an interception. Iowa State passed for 288 on the night. Obviously 45 coming from Bramer to Eskelson. But across the board, I thought Rocco did what he had to do, and he played what Arizona gave him. I thought that was a positive. We didn't see anything too crazy, too heroic from Rocco. I thought he basically just went out, got the job done. That's really what you need. In some games, you just can't throw the game away. Now, the interception we will talk about here in a second. Last positive, I thought for the most part, Iowa State's offensive line was very good in this game. Now, there are moments that I think that they want to snap back here or there. Arizona, across the board, very tough defense to defend as an offensive line, quote unquote, to fend off, right? I think that they played all right. A total of only 2 sacks on the evening. Now, did they come at the worst times? Maybe. They were not at good times, but is there really a good time to have a sack? I argue no. You never want a sack. So I think across the board, Iowa State's offensive line played really well. Defensively, number one, biggest positive right now by far, number 7. Yes, you heard that right. Trey Bell, I think, is stepping well into this role. I think he's playing extremely high-level football. And with now what Matt Campbell has said, Jeremiah Cooper out for the season, that's big. Need Trey Bell to step up in this one. Absolutely. Across the board, really solid night. Only 1 sack, but I wasn't expecting a ton of sacks against Arizona in this one, to be completely honest. I really thought we were going to end up with a couple pressures, but no real sacks, because Fafita is a really elusive guy. I feel pretty good about that, honestly. A total of 3 tackles for loss and 1 sack. I'll take it. My concerns with the defense do lie in those drives that Arizona was able to get into the end zone. They weren't like weird explosive plays. They strung some plays together. They had a whole drive lined up. I don't love that. I brought up in the post game kind of instant reaction. There were some vibes that I wasn't a huge fan of. Even rewatching, and I was like, it feels like we're okay with them just putting this drive together. Like it's like not the end of the world. I understand that maybe there was some translation issues there, some words lost in translation. I just think obviously played really well the rest of the night, held Arizona to 14, but probably could have held Arizona to 0. Realistically, I think that the defense was good enough to hold Arizona to 0, a shutout, or at least a field goal, not 2 touchdowns. I thought Iowa State probably could have played better in a few moments, but across the board, really solid showing on defense. Obviously held Fafita to 253. So that's not exactly locking him down. 32 of 48 is an ideal for Fafita, right around that 60%, give or take, just above. But 2 interceptions, that's a little bit of a bend, don't break kind of to that defense as well. So holding Ismail Mahdi to 85 yards, I like that. I feel pretty good about this defense. I think across the board, I would give them both right around that A- or so, offense and defense. Special teams did what it had to do. Wasn't really a huge factor in this one. I on the rewatch didn't really have a ton of different thoughts. I just thought we played well on offense. There is a ton of upside the rest of the season. And on defense, I thought we played well enough. There were moments I thought we could have played better, but we played well enough. The injuries, though, could be a concern. absolutely could be a concern. We'll talk about that coming up here in just 1 second. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-hour energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with zero sugar and zero crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. I always reach for my favorite flavor because it's refreshing, gives me that quick lift before a busy day. I love how quick it is, how easy it is. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine that's hard to find. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-hour energy shots. Get your favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. So in the post-game presser, Matt Campbell talked a little bit about some of the injury concerns for Iowa State. The main one being Cooper being out for the rest of the season. That's upsetting. It's not ideal. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you guys. That is not where we want to be. You want Cooper on the field. There were a few others, but the main one that we were going to talk about, I think, is Kaijon Cummings-Coleman. Does seem like there could be something going on there. When Matt Campbell even is like, yeah, that we're not really sure what's going on there. Immediately, I was concerned. I was like, okay, that might be a legit issue, right, for Iowa State. I don't think Dom Orange is going to be anything. He might be agitated, whatever it is, maybe agitated, but I don't think it's going to, pull him out for the rest of the season or anything like that. That is going to be, that's a positive for sure. Rocco, the concussion situation, obviously played the rest of this game. I'll be very interested to see how that all plays out specifically, but I think it'll be okay. I don't foresee him missing any time, obviously past the concussion protocol or whatever they put him through during the game, which is good. And that is awesome. Obviously, there could be delayed onset, and we'll see. But considering he went back in this game, I would imagine that even if he does see delayed symptoms, they won't be severe enough to take him out this weekend, which is, I think, a good thing, right? Across the board, I do think injuries are going to play a role this year. But I'm also, I think Iowa State has the depth now that I don't have to really, I'm not, like when Cooper goes down, that's not good. But I'm not calling the season now. Does that make sense? I'm not in a situation where I'm ready to just bail entirely on the year, start tanking for next season type of situation. No, I think Iowa State has the depth. Jontez Williams could, I don't think anything will come of that. That was the one that if we take another shot in the secondary, that would be a concern. But across the board, I think we have enough depth to take on a few kind of wear and tear situations, if you will. But like I said, the secondary is wearing relatively thin. So if I had to say one situation where we really can't take any more, you don't want to take an injury anywhere, but the secondary is where that is, right? We are running relatively thin out there. And Jontez Williams had an unbelievable game, right? Jontez showed up and played hard. I think Trey, honestly, right on the same level as Trey Bell. I thought both of those guys were huge in this win for Iowa State. So while my injury concern meter is not at an alarming level right now, I think the secondary is the one spot where it could elevate to that, okay, now this is going to be a problem. And the reason for that is that this defensive line just really hasn't seen a lot of pressures, a lot of sacks on the season. What we've essentially relied on is the secondary and the linebackers being able to cover while the defensive line kind of puts on some pressure. If they get there, great. If they don't, they're basically going to force a throwaway. In some aspects, that's sort of what's going on defense. All right. I know that is a ridiculous oversimplification, but on some level, that's kind of what it is. Allow the secondary to just cover, and he won't be able to throw it. If the defensive line gets there, great. Force him out of bounds, force him to throw it away, whatever. Just keep him in front of you. It's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this defensive scheme. If we start to lose guys in the secondary at the rate that, in the whole second half, it was like boom, 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 boom. If we start losing guys at that rate, we're going to have problems. We need to have guys out in the secondary that can cover. Okay. But right now, I am not too worried. I am not too threatened. I do wonder if we'll start to see a shift, if we start to see that secondary thin out a little bit more, if we could see a shift towards a more aggressive defensive front, potentially more linebackers blitzing. Not something we see a whole lot right now, but I wonder if it's going to become more of a get to the quarterback defense as opposed to play back and make them throw at defense. That's what I wonder. That could be the change that we see from this defense the rest of the season. And while I think that that's really exciting and I would love to see, instead of 1 sack for the evening, 6, 7 sacks on the day, well, that would be awesome. Like, that would be a really fun game to watch. I do wonder if then that leads to a lot of explosive plays in return. Essentially, what I'm proposing here is Iowa State could shift their defensive strategy closer to what an Arizona defensive strategy was, and we see how well that worked out for them, right? Now, they only had 2 sacks on the night instead of like that 6 or 7, and obviously game flow is going to have a major impact on how games play out. So I'm not saying that immediately if Iowa State makes that switch, we're going to lose games 39-14 the rest of the season. And I don't even know if they'll make that switch, but that is where my mind immediately goes to. If we start to see the secondary thin out, I wonder if we'll start to see more pressure on quarterbacks in this one. Offensively, I feel really good about where we're at. That's awesome. We're not even really concerned about the offense. You're going to hear all week, injuries, offensive efficiency here, defensive whatever. Look, I am almost completely looking past the offense as far as like things that need to be tuned up. I think the offense is in a really, really good spot. And honestly, like, banged up, wear and tear, this, that, and the other, I'm like pretty much moving past the offense. I'm solely focused on the defense, which is another good thing because guess what? You can always score more points. You can always get into a shootout, essentially. You can win a game 45-41. If your defense is showing up really well and your offense isn't putting points on the board, in my opinion, it's tougher to win those games. If your offense is what's flaming out, but your defense is holding teams to 14 points, you can still lose games 14-3. You hold a team to 14 points, it's a really good defensive showing. But if you don't put up more than 14 points, you don't win that game. So I honestly feel really confident about where Iowa State's at right now. Like I said, no alarm bells going off. We need to keep guys healthy throughout the week. If we're losing guys between games, don't love that. We need to keep guys healthy from week to week. But right now, I feel okay. And some of you guys made some good points. Like, this is a football season. Guys are going to get hurt. Knock on wood. Hope, in theory, no one would ever get hurt ever. I want everyone to stay entirely healthy the rest of the season on every team in the entire college football space, right? Even in the NFL space. Like, every single person stays healthy, period. No injuries, no illnesses, no nothing. That would be ideal. But that's not really the reality. And you're going to have teams that have a ton of guys on the injury report. You're going to have teams that have a bunch of guys in the out injury report category, but nowhere else on the injury report. I don't know if that's exactly what's happening or not at those locations, but nonetheless, it is probably something we'll see. Iowa State's doing just fine. I honestly think we are okay. We're going to get a lot of question marks, and we're going to talk about the AP poll in a second here. There's going to be a lot of, well, no, this guy's hurt, this guy, whatever. I am not concerned right now. I am not. I feel really good about where Iowa State is at, especially offensively. Defensively, we're going to be able to adjust. We've got guys who will step up. Trey Bell, immediately was on my radar. I hate to toot my own horn a little bit, but that one, when Trey Bell, I got the transfer notification, I said, look out for that one. Look out for that one. And he has already shown up and been that guy a little bit on some level, been unbelievable, right? So just keep that in mind. Iowa State's got depth. They have guys who can step up and get it done. We'll see who it is exactly because they've got so many opportunities. We don't know who it is exactly, but I am not concerned right now at all, to be completely honest, which is a nice feeling. However, the AP poll does not believe on the same level that I do. So we've got to talk about the AP poll coming up here right after this. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. Here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep business moving even when you're off the clock. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's quo.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, I've tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. That's definitely where I spend way too much time. I always wonder where I can get the best value as that line moves. Throughout, betting live is definitely what I like to do. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. The AP poll is not a poll I think a lot of people think very highly of. I'm not going to lie to you. We're going to cover it here on Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. But I'm not thrilled to do it. I don't want to have to sit down here and tell you AP poll rankers put Iowa State at 14. What are they? Rankers? Is that what they are? They're not very good at their job, I'll tell you that. The AP poll for week 6 is certainly something. I think it's maybe more right than it's been in the past, but also at the same time more wrong, if that makes any sense. We've got Ohio State at 1, Oregon 2, Miami 3, Ole Miss 4, Oklahoma 5. With the top 5, I don't really have any major problems. I'm not going to lie to you. Whatever. Let's just kind of move on. There really isn't anything that we should be talking about in the top 5. Let's put it that way. Texas A&M comes in at 6, Penn State 7, Indiana 8, Texas 9, Alabama 10. This is where I start to get kind of a little annoyed almost, because what is Penn State doing at 7? How did Indiana move up so far after a win over Iowa? What is Texas doing? Alabama, I guess, but they, whatever. All right. Feels really high on some levels. I don't really love that either. 11 through 15 goes Texas Tech at 11, Georgia 12, LSU 13, Iowa State 14, Tennessee 15. Iowa State does not move after a dominant win over Arizona. Texas Tech actually moves up in the bye week. So that, I guess that's cool. Shout out to them. Pretty sure Iowa State went down 2 spots during their bye week, but neither here nor there. We're not going to get too far into that. LSU at 13. Look, I've never been high on LSU. I really didn't think they were that good. Whatever. I actually have no problem with them at 13. Georgia at 12. It's fine. Tennessee at 15. They haven't moved in 3 weeks. So at some point, it's like almost impressive. I'm just gonna leave them. In this week's poll, we've got Vanderbilt at 16, Georgia Tech 17, Florida State 18, Mizzou 19, Michigan 20, Notre Dame stays on at 21, Illinois 22, BYU 23, Virginia 24, Arizona State 25. So you've got 4 Big 12 teams, Texas Tech at 11, Iowa State 14, BYU 23, Arizona State 25. Looking at last week's poll, there were also 4 Big 12 teams. There was the same 4, or excuse me, not the same 4, same 3, except for Arizona State was swapped out for TCU. So Texas Tech, Iowa State, TCU, BYU in last week's poll. In the week prior, Big 12 teams, you had Iowa State at 12, Texas Tech at 17. That might be it, actually. Oh, Utah at 16, which the whole Utah experiment was a shock. I do not know what's going on with Utah, but if you listen to the Squad Show, you know how I feel about Utah, so whatever. I'm not going to argue about that. Look, Iowa State at 14. At some point, it just becomes it's bulletin board material and you move on. Like, I don't want to sit here and yap about this every single week. I don't think Iowa State I'm not going to make the argument Iowa State is the top 3 team in the country. I'm not going to sit here and do that to you. But I do think there are a handful of teams that Iowa State is better than on this list. I think Iowa State is probably better than LSU. I do. I think Georgia's pretty good. Obviously, a big win over Tennessee. That's a really tough place to play. I'm not going to get too mad about that. I think what Iowa State has done on paper so far is better than Texas Tech. I'm sorry. I do think that is true. Big win over Kansas State, Iowa, and a dominant win over Arizona. Took care of their other two non-conference games besides Iowa. Look, I know that there are going to be people that say Texas Tech is a better football team than Iowa State. I haven't seen it yet. I just haven't. I think that they beat a Utah team. Congratulations. I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with me there. What is Texas doing? Their biggest wins over Sam Houston, I guess. Okay. Alabama beat Georgia. Awesome. What is Indiana? Indiana saw a huge boost from 11 to 8 after they beat Iowa. Okay. Yeah, shocking. That one is odd to me. I'm not saying Iowa State's better than Indiana, but it's a lot of movement for beating Iowa by a touchdown and then taking a safety to make it a 5-point game. Like, what are we doing there? Penn State? So Penn State's just really good at if you have a whiteout game, which Iowa State had one of those, and you dominate your non-conference opponents, which I think Iowa State did it to at least a fair amount, and then played better at competition, you are ranked in the top 10. But only, I guess, so then only the only way that works is if it's Penn State. All right, whatever. Got it. Don't love that. Look, like I said, I really don't have a huge problem with the top 5. So I think Iowa State probably deserves to be right around 10 or 11. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you they are by far no way they have to be in the top 10. Like, I'm not, you know what? That's fine. Everyone's got to have difference of opinion. I'm not going to argue to the ends of the earth there, but I think that they easily jump LSU. I think they jump Texas Tech. I think they jump Texas. I think they jump Penn State, and that puts them at 10. Like, I can see it. I absolutely can see it. But they're at 14, and I think it will be like that until I think they probably have to basically go. They probably have to be 10-0. Do they have to be 10-0 to be number 9? Is that what it takes? I think that might be it. I've done some thinking on it. It's like, I think they have to at least, they won't see any major movement until they beat BYU at home, which I think would have them at 8-0, 9-0, 5, 6, 7. It would be 8-0, I think. I don't know the schedule up right in front of me, but I think it would be 8-0. I think Iowa State can't crack the top 10 until they're 8-0. So why are we even talking about this? Well, that's because this actually matters. College Football Playoff Committee is going to see this. This matters for teams that Iowa State's beat, that it'll be in the top 25. We want to see BYU. We want to see Arizona State in the top 25. Like, Cincinnati probably could have cracked the top 25 with a big win over Kansas. I think Kansas is good. I would probably put them in over. Well, I think they could. Anybody basically can go win over Notre Dame, in my opinion. But they go in, boom, that's a top 25 win for Iowa State. So can't tell me that this AP poll thing doesn't matter, because whether or not Cincinnati's in, obviously Iowa State has to win that game, but that's the number of top 25 wins that Iowa State has. Are they 26 or are they 25? It absolutely matters. You can't tell me it doesn't. I'm sorry. You just can't. Where they're specifically ranked, I don't think is the end of the world. Look, 14's fine. They're going to probably use it as bulletin board material. Stay the underdogs. I like it. I like Iowa State being, coming from behind anyway. They're just being the underdog coming from unforeseen territory. That's what I like about Iowa State. I think we're probably best in that situation. That being said, be sure to hit subscribe down below. It's completely free. Maybe it'll help boost Iowa State up from 14 on the AP poll. Who knows? Maybe it'll give me an AP vote. I'll put Iowa State at 1 literally every single week. I don't even care, because I don't know if the actual voters are doing anything differently. I obviously have access to that, but you know what I'm saying. It's not impressing me. It's not impressing me by any sense of the word. That being said, roll clones, baby. Until next time, Cyclone fans, sayonara.